So today we're going to start with something a little bit different, and we're going to start with a video, an advertisement, and I would like you, as it's playing, to guess for me what this video is advertising.
So what we're doing is we're turning into a React channel.
We're a React channel now, yeah. That's what this is.
Okay. So
Okay, women.
this looks, yeah.
So it's going to be
Women
something...
hold just 10%
I think if you
of
look
patents.
This is going to be
So this is like
a
some
video
sort of, yeah.
deeply unempowering is what I'm expecting.
It's going to feel like you're building up to a crescendo and then it's going to like gut punch you, I reckon.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I think it's sort of building up and then it's going to be like, what the fuck?
One of those
Clothing.
drink sense adverts.
Yeah. I'm expecting like some sort of left field, really just hit you really where it shouldn't hit you, kind of.
Is it Nike brand lab coats?
Be free. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe something like that, like some sort of brand trying to sort of look, we're empowering people. Look at this, women are great. All the while, paying women in other parts of the world not very much money to make all the clothes that they have, and they sell for extremely large profits. That would be my guess.
My name's Ava, I'm 16 and I'm from Ireland.
I do remember seeing this before, but I really don't remember what it was for, because it's one of those nothing adverts.
Yeah.
It feels like something I've seen before, but that also might mean that there are just things that seem a bit like this.
Yeah. It's definitely a type.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I said Nike, because that's their...
Yeah. When they do like the protest
girls,
advert and stuff.
Maybe it's
Or that Pepsi one.
Okay.
Here we go.
Oh my
Oh,
god, oh no! Oh no!
There we go.
God.
Here we have Ms. Monopoly, the fast-dealing property trading game.
You know, my next episode also has Monopoly links, so I'm excited.
Oh.
Yeah,
Interesting.
put a little link in or something.
Wow. That's an impressive curveball.
One of the girls was saying in that advert, like, women used to just look pretty and be on the stage, and now we're inventing things. So I come away with this really strong impression of, like, women used to do nothing of value, but now it's all different. Now there's a girl version of Monopoly for girls. Now we, Hasbro, can sell one for boys and one for girls. Women can be anything nowadays, even landlords.
Yeah,
What-
women
so-
can
so-
capitalism too.
Yeah. One of the things I know about Monopoly, other than the fact it's a terrible game that you should never play, is that it was invented by a woman.
Well, that's what this whole presentation is about, so I'm very glad you knew that. Because, let's just come back to this frame from the start of the ad. Women hold just 10% of all patented inventions, because there's one woman inventor extremely conspicuously missing from this advert, and that is Lizzie Magie, the inventor of Monopoly.
I mean, this
Great
is
hair.
this is a near the end of capitalism horrific nightmare. This entire experience.
It's just like inside out, perfect, like simulacrum recuperation of anything good that anyone's ever done. Which brings us to the surprisingly anti-capitalist history of Monopoly.
I'm excited to see you tear down both Monopoly and also capitalism.
Please tear down capitalism.
I'll do my best. Alas, I am but one woman. So, Monopoly is derived from Lizzie Magie's game, originally called The Landlord's Game, and she created this game in 1903 to criticize private land ownership. She created it to argue against landlordism and monopolies. So The rules of the original game and the board itself were much the same as the game we play today. Players win by snatching up the best locations, charging maximum rents, while other players lose more and more until they all go bust and only one player remains with assets. But once players see themselves losing out to a single successful capitalist, they can vote to switch to a different set of rules called prosperity.
Oh.
Under those rules, rent is paid into a common pot rather than to a single successful capitalist, and thus prosperity is achieved.
So basically you vote for communism. I'm pretty certain that's not how it works, though.
So in the idea of the game was that, so this is a quote from Magie on her intentions for the game. They learned that the quickest way to accumulate wealth and gain power is to get all the land they can in the best localities and hold on to it. Let the children once see clearly the gross injustice of our present land system, and when they grow up, if they are allowed to develop naturally, the evil will soon be remedied.
I've got spoilers.
I wish, yeah.
It wasn't remedied.
It wasn't remedied, unfortunately. The board itself was mostly the same as the one we use now, except that in place of Monopoly's Go, there was a box marked "Labour upon Mother Earth produces wages." And chance cards contained quotes such as "The earth belongs in usufruct to the living" by Thomas Jefferson, and from John Ruskin, "It begins to be asked on many sides how the possessors of the land became possessed of it." And then also from Andrew Carnegie, "The greatest astonishment in my life was the discovery that the man who does the work is not the man who gets rich."
Yeah, that is true. Mm-hmm. That is definitely true.
I played Monopoly recently and got a chance card where you have to throw all of the hundreds into the air, and then whoever can pick the most up, like if you grab them as they're falling, and whatever you can grab whilst it's falling is yours.
That wasn't in Monopoly when I was a kid.
We took that card out of the game. That's just too much. Too much.
That's disaster capitalism, that one.
Yeah, the problem with Monopoly is it's a game where the only way you win is by not being very nice to your friends.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why people don't like it.
Yeah.
Because if you play it properly, someone is going to be not very nice to you, or you're not going to be very nice to someone else. And if you don't play it properly, it lasts forever.
Yeah. They put in the box.
Yeah.
Play according to the rules, don't make any special deals, don't try to be nice to people.
That's so funny. I didn't know they actually wrote that on the box, because we always used to do that, didn't we? Like, when we were playing with our younger brothers and stuff, we would always be making deals with them to make the game like more fun.
Yeah,
and, like,
it actually
keep people in it.
It does
but that just means it lasts
forever.
That just means it lasts forever. So it's not a great game, but again, I'm guessing that's kind of the intention, right?
Right, that's the original intention. And also, like, you know, destroying the competition and knocking them out is all very well and good for a game, right? Even if it means that only one person ends up really having any fun and that's the winner. But that's all very well and good for a game with no consequences except wounded egos. But, you know, when it comes to real life, people's lives are on the line.
Yeah.
Life isn't a game.
Mm-hmm. And also you can't just walk around and get given 200 quid.
Labour upon Mother Earth produces wages. That's the labour theory of value right there.
It is.
Here's a quote from Meiji. "In a short time, I hope a very short time, men and women will discover that they are poor because Carnegie and Rockefeller, maybe, have more than they know what to do with." Unfortunately not a very short time.
This feels a bit like it applies to our world now. Just replace Carnegie and Rockefeller to Musk and who's the Amazon guy? Bezos.
Yeah, feels a bit that way, yeah. You got a point there, Jen. More specifically, Meiji created the game to promote Georgism and the economic philosophy of Henry George, who said that people should own the value they produce themselves, but that economic value derived from land, including natural resources, should belong equally to all members of society. He argued for a single tax on land, and he believed that that would create a more productive, more just society. Instead of taxing income or other sources, he said that the government should create a universal land tax based on the usefulness, size, and location of the land, and then after funding the government, the surplus should be distributed to the people. And many progressive political leaders at the time supported this argument, thought that it would motivate people to cultivate the land, redistribute wealth to people of poor socioeconomic standing, and, my favourite, eradicate the idea that landowners or landlords held the power and monetary value of the land that citizens used, and let people own all the value and benefits of their creations. And his ideas were so popular that his book Progress and Poverty sold millions of copies worldwide, possibly more than any previous American book, and were very influential on politicians like Roosevelt and the whole progressive era. Well, irony heaped upon irony. After the Landlord's Game had grown popular among left-wing circles, with people making their own homemade versions, and the Quakers in Atlantic City adapting it to match local landmarks, Charles Darrow visited with childhood friends in 1932 and came to their house for dinner. After the meal, the Todds introduced Darrow to the Landlord's Game, which they then played several times. The game was entirely new to Darrow, and he asked the Todds for a written set of rules. Charles Darrow then nicked the game, ditched the anti-monopolist rules, and started distributing it himself. He then sold the copyrights to the Parker brothers. When the Parker brothers eventually found out that he was not the original inventor, they paid Magie just £500, while Darrow and the Parker brothers got filthy rich. They were then eventually bought out by Hasbro, which maintains to this day the popular origin story of a down-and-out guy, Charles Darrow, who came up with the game just to amuse himself and went on to create great wealth for himself and the struggling business, the Parker Bros. And there's a little quote from Darrow on screen. "Being unemployed at the time and badly needing anything to occupy my time, I made, by hand, a very crude game for the sole purpose of amusing myself."
I don't like him.
I don't like Hasbro much either, or basically any large company.
This is not a fun story.
And then irony heaped upon irony heaped upon irony. In the 70s, Ralph Ansbach, San Francisco State University economics professor, created the game Anti-Monopoly, originally titled Bust the Trust, in order to oppose the impression that this, ubiquitous Monopoly game created, that monopolies were in any way desirable. And the game begins at the end point of a completed Monopoly game in a monopolized state, and players take the role of federal caseworkers in bringing indictments against each of the monopolized businesses.
My goodness, I wish.
One of the house rules that people play with this game is that they can take bribes from monopolies and then they don't do anything, so it never ends.
To attempt to return the state of the board to a free market system. So he's still an American economics professor, but anti-monopoly. And yeah, of course, another little layer of irony slapped on there. Of course, the Parker Bros sued Ralph Ansbach for trademark infringement in 1974. Of course, by this point, Charles Darrow is not even alive anymore. Like, copyright is a process ends up being a process where
Yeah.
massive businesses just like buy up all of the intellectual properties and monopolize intellectual property as well as like physical land.
Well, it's like every time that copyright law gets changed is like it's within 5 years of Mickey Mouse gonna be moving into copyright.
Right.
So every time it gets longer, it's because in the next 5 years Mickey Mouse is no longer gonna be in copyright. So Disney lobby hard to make it so that no one else can make Mickey Mouse stuff.
Yeah. And they're just enormous. Disney are like, they just epitomize a monopoly, right? So they have so much, they just build up more and more power to change the rules for themselves.
Yeah.
And it was actually Ralph Anspach's research into the legal defense of his game that uncovered the story of the original anti-monopoly game invented by Lizzie Magie. Eventually, Anspach won on appeals in 1979 as the court determined that the trademark monopoly was generic and therefore unenforceable. But then this decision was overturned by the passage of Public Law 98 to 620 in 84. And with that law in place, Parker Brothers and the parent company Hasbro, who monopolized the board game industry, continue to hold trademarks for the game Monopoly, but they made a special exception for Ralph Anspach and reached a settlement. And so he now markets his game under a license from them.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh. I don't like the realities of this universe.
Yeah.
It's not great, is it?
So now we're going to return to the magnificent Magie, who was an exceptional woman in many respects. She was a typist, actress, comedian, writer, journalist, inventor, engineer, feminist, Georgist, and, of course, games designer.
That's a lot of stuff.
That is a lot of stuff.
I love that games designer is part of that because it's just like games design too is praxis.
Yeah.
Like, if she were born 100 years later, she would have been a target for Gamergate kind of person.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially when you hear this. Okay. So.
Okay.
So she was born in 1866. Her father, James K. Magie, was an abolitionist and newspaper publisher. She wrote short stories and poetry as well. And at a time when women held just 1% of patents in the US, at the age of 26, she patented her invention that made the typewriting process easier by allowing paper to go through the rollers more easily. And she also created 2 other games, Bargain Day and King's Men. And when she was working as a young woman in Washington, D.C., as a stenographer, she was making just $10 a month, not enough to live off without a husband. And in protest of women's struggles, she bought an advertisement and tried to auction herself as a young woman American slave looking for a husband to own her. This advertisement was meant to show the position of women and black people in the US, emphasizing that true freedom was only available to white men.
I expect a 12-hour YouTube video debunking really badly.
Debunking the wage gap.
It's still an argument that's used a lot in favour of not paying women very much all over the world is, well, they're just here to, they're here because they're bored at home or they want to supplement their...
It's just supplementary income.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, that obviously pushes people into, not necessarily desirable living situations and marriages and relationships because, people can't make it on a single income. Like... Not just women as well, obviously.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the problems with one of the thing that capitalism has almost gone the complete opposite way now, because now that women are expected to work and expected to be able to bring in the same amount of salary as men, or expected, they then they bumped up the cost of living, so it uses
Right.
2 salaries to live.
Right, so now you can't sustain, like now it's almost impossible to sustainably raise a family on one income, for example.
Yeah.
So then women obviously end up having to work and also do all of the domestic responsibilities at the same time.
Yeah. And that's why I need to have a cleaner come in during a pandemic.
Yeah.
My teenage son and my like teenage kind of husband they can't clean. They don't know how to clean. I need to endanger this poor woman who comes into my house and cleans all their shit stains.
Who also has to go clean in other people's houses for a living, risking disease, and then return to her own home and do all of her cleaning in her household. Yeah, cool.
But you know, she has to get money to survive, and what possible means of getting money could there be other than cleaning my kitchen?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like you're almost doing them a favour, actually.
And actually, the real problem is trans women.
Yeah. God damn it.
This can
Yeah.
be cut, by the way. You can cut all of this crap. Okay.
No, I'm keeping it because...
We're veering slowly into like left tube here.
It started out there. It
Yeah,
started out there. Let's be real. And it's also a good segue because speaking of horrible, badly done corporate feminism, let's return to Ms. Monopoly. So instead of in this game, instead of investing in property, the game revolves around investing in the inventions of women and highlighting the often erased contributions of women throughout history. Very nice. But obviously, making it all the more horrendously ironic that the company itself has deliberately erased the original feminist creator of the game and her anti-capitalist intentions in favour of the rags to riches story of the man who stole credit for the game, erased the woman who invented it, and they sell this story that fits in with the kind of game itself, this sort of entrepreneurial American dream that anyone can make it big and become a successful capitalist through hard work and ingenuity, and that's the story that they like to create around this. I also want to note, so the tagline of this game, the first game where women make more than men.
Oh no, don't tell me one
Oh,
of the
is
rules
there
is
a
if you're a man
rule?
you get less money than...
I'm
Oh,
very sorry.
no.
I'm very sorry to tell you. Girls collect 240 when they pass go, where boys collect 200.
Well, that's a great way to like spawn a load of incels.
Isn't it? Isn't it the perfect way
Yeah.
to like genuinely fuel like resentment, like for nothing? And obviously, you know, that resentment's gonna appear anyway, whatever. But you know what? I don't want to play like it's a deathly boring game if you know that someone's got an advantage from the start. If you know that you've got an advantage from the start.
Just inviting comments of feminism gone mad to just the least feminist thing.
Right, exactly.
Do you know who actually developed? Do you know the people who actually developed this?
I don't know the individual people,
Because
but
you can
they made a mistake.
almost guarantee they're actually men.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
It's that, or a bunch of men have like designated the one woman in charge, and
Right.
then she's come with like a bunch of drafts, and then they've been like, no.
Yeah, yeah. They said, oh yeah, you have to go make it, but also you have to do these three things because we're the boss. And I bet it doesn't have any clauses for non-binary people as well.
Exactly.
Do MVs just get
Exactly.
$0?
Yeah.
Can't wait for Mook's Monopoly coming out.
Right.
2035.
Right. Stepping it up. Now they get to sell 3 versions of the game. One for boys, one for girls, and one for non-binary people. And of course, as well, the original creator of the game herself did wild and wacky things to highlight women being underpaid at work, and this game itself is just completely erasing her from history.
You spelt feminism wrong on one of your slides.
Shit. Okay, I'm gonna check through. I knew I'd be spelling feminism wrong. I always forget how to spell.